Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Morning Glow. Welcome to another episode of The Morning Glow. Got a great listen. I think we have a barn burner for you this morning. And we're gonna kick this thing off the right way. I think we have a barn burner. We're gonna educate. We're gonna try to educate you a little bit today on a lot of things that's going on in and around the community and communities. We got a couple of callers on the line already, and so I'm high and happy, elephant lady, and porcupine proud that they're already with us this morning. And I was going to talk about something else. I was going to talk about to get us started this morning, but we're going to jump right into this conversation because I think this right here is going to take all of these 3 hours that we got to cover what we talked about this morning. So let me do this. We have two callers. Callers, what's your name? Where you calling from? Ladies first, please. If there's a young lady on the line.
This is Dr. Cook. Excuse me.
Good morning, Dr. Cook. How you doing this morning?
I'm well, and you?
Doing good, doing good. Hold on one second. Let me introduce. We have a gentleman with us as well. Sir, what's your name? Where you calling from?
You talking to me? It's your brother and servant, Brother Pete. How we doing this morning? DKM Radio, listening audience family.
Hey, doing great, man. We got a topic this morning, and like I said, usually I have something that I use the preference and go in and talk about before we get to our topic. But I think we're gonna jump right into our topic this morning. And the topic is this: does his story, HIS dash story, does his story lie? Is all the stuff that that they tell us in history, is it all factual? Is everything they tell us factual, or do they sprinkle in a little bit of their story, his story? Pete, talk to me, brother.
The answer is in the term his story.
Mm-hmm.
We have the 4th of July. We affectionately call it the 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
We have Christmas, where a man comes down the chimney with a bag full of gifts.
Come on.
We got Easter, where bunnies have eggs. We in a land where a people came to explore and ended up staying forever and have claimed it as their own, to make you believe they was always here, like they come from here. You're staying in a land where you've been taught that different ones were brought here. The ones who were here were dominated and killed off, and they never did nothing but just stay obedient and servants. Does his story lie? His whole version of his existence is a lie.
Wow. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to jump right into this topic. Excuse me. I wanted to jump right into this topic because there's so many different layers. Dr. Cook, what do you say to that? Does his story lie? Do we get the full version of the truth when we're talking about history?
No, because he is talking about his story. No one gave us the real story. So now we are learning the real story. Because those people from history are telling us now. My family didn't give me a lot of history. So I had to go out and start learning it by reading, talking to a lot of the elderly people in my family. I learned the story there, but it was only their story. I didn't learn the complete history because I wanted to know the real history. So the information that we were taught previously, that was not the real story.
Brother Pete, and there's so many. Let's talk. And there's so many different things that we could pull in, and I'm gonna give y'all the freedom to pull in exactly what it is y'all want to pull in and talk about what y'all want to talk about, because there's so much to talk about. But let's jump for a second, Brother Pete, to Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, we affectionately call him Christopher Columbus, but okay.
Christopher Columbus discovered America. He discovered America. He is such a great individual. He's such a great explorer. He discovered America. Pete, does his story lie?
Right. His story is a complete lie. And if you do a little bit of in-depth research, you'll see where that story was put together to create a narrative. In the age of information, some light research, you can find that out. Christopher Columbus never made it to North America.
Exactly.
He made it to what we call the Americas, and that includes North, South, Central, and the outlying and minor islands. So that's a lie. It's a lie. It's another one. It's a lie. George Washington never chopped down a physical cherry tree, but he did take down an existing authority.
Yes.
But he didn't chop down a cherry tree. The whole version is full of lies. Even the concept of being identified as white was created on paper in the 1600s in the British colony after the first revolt. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. You're lying. It doesn't seem that you can tell the truth. You're lying.
Dr. Cook, talk to me, man. Christopher Columbus and all the stories that they try to tell us throughout history, try to make us believe is factual. Are they truly factual?
No, they are not. Not at all. And you know, I'm so glad I learned about Christmas. And you know, with my children, I never taught them about the pagan. I never taught them about Christmas. People always tell me, let the children, you know, enjoy. I am not going to allow my children to anything about their paganistic stuff. I taught them the real deal.
Exactly.
And I basically, at a young age, my girls were pretty intelligent. And I taught them everything. I was straightforward with them. And I told them, I said, you all will not learn anything that's paganistic. You will not celebrate. You will not celebrate holidays, paganistic holidays. And I taught them history. As soon as they were able to understand it, I taught them. And I make sure that they read.
Yes.
Because they put everything in books, and a lot of people don't like to read. And I make sure they read.
Exactly. That's good. We got another caller. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Good morning, man. It's VP out of Connecticut.
VP, what's going on? How you doing this morning, sir?
Pretty good, sir. Trying to catch up.
Yeah, we missed you yesterday, bro.
Yeah, they're busy.
Yes, sir. I understand. We got a topic today, man, and we're gonna go deep into this thing as deep as we can go into it, and I know we could go very deep because of who we have on. We're asking the question: is his story, HIS-Story, a lie? Is what they've been teaching us in school? Is what they teach our young kids in school? Is it based on lies or is it factual?
You talking about history in general, right?
Yes.
Not like his story, like capital H God.
Yeah.
You just talking about like, okay,
like HIS-his story. Is his story a lie?
You know, this is gonna be a real opinionated copy here, boy. I tell you. I think written history is a very colonialized ideology. So they only want to really teach you what they want you to know. But unlike older days where, I'm saying older days, but in the past where people were so in tune and trying to get you so educated and to caught up with the world. I guess I'm talking about our side of the of history, or the minority side, to catch up with everyone else's, or the plot of Caucasians' success. We did find ourselves trying to ignore his story or even our story. I think that in modern times we've gone light years ahead of what our parents and our grandparents were learning about history and actually getting a better view of how the world really interacted with or was changed and manipulated to what it is today. Because even I can remember back in social study and remember when they were talking about how the English were starting to move around all the continents and during the trades and stuff. And you always thought about it as them going around taking buying spices and setting up buildings. But as you get older, you really start to realize they were out there snatching up people and changing the world to what they wanted to look like.
Mm-hmm.
So, his story is definitely, and because we're so sucked into what we were taught in middle school and high school and elementary school that we don't even realize how hard it is to get out of that mindset that this is what it is. I had jumped in right at the I think at the end of the first caller, saying that she was teaching her people, her son, certain types of history or ways to learn history, which in a lot of cultures, and that's why our stuff, and I think that's probably what the topic is going to end up going, is a lot of our cultural past was word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't written down like the Caucasian or English, because that's what we're all getting our standards from. Really, is the English standards of writing down their history and making us and teaching us to do it. It wasn't a unified front coming over here to America, especially from Africa, the continent of Africa, where you had so many different shoreline of eastern countries that had their own history changed in a flash. So I don't know, man. It depends on what form of history are we trying to tackle.
Exactly. And we're gonna it's gonna be a lot that's gonna be tackled today, brothers. It's actually gonna be a lot. Pete, talk to me. What's on your heart?
The origin of the European existence is rooted in melanated peoples founding it first. That's the truth. They lie about their history.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you Jesus is white over here, but they celebrate a dark-skinned deity as an artifact or a visual over in most of all of what we call to be European or very light-skinned countries.
Mm-hmm.
They lying. Mm-hmm. They tell you that you knew nothing about reading and science and astrology and agriculture and warfare, martial arts, the study of astrology, the planets and the stars and its correlation, the signs for your birth. Look here, they lying.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you that they came over to a country and they fought for their freedom, but yet they're still subjects of who they say they defeated when they fought. They're lying. Mm-hmm. They tell you that the land was founded in a system of laws, and the laws of the land represent liberty and justice and freedom. Keywords for all. Mm-hmm. You're lying. Mm-hmm. The real law of the land is lying, stealing, and killing. That's how it was founded. That's the real laws. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, are noble pieces to be used equivalent as toilet paper. They're lying. Where is the truth in a society built up on lies?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you said something about even the martial arts, and one of the founders of martial arts was Confucius, and a lot of people don't even know who he is or who he was. A lot of people don't even know. That's some homework for y'all when y'all get a chance to take a look at it. And the phone lines are open: 678-381-1973, 678-381-1973. Give us a call and let us know what you think about this conversation. We're asking the question: is his story a lie? Is his story a lie? Give us a call, 678-381-1973, 678-381-1973. Dr. Cook, what's on your heart?
Well, I'm an educator, and I have to teach history. I had to do my own research. But as far as teaching history, since there are assessments that have to be done, I have to teach them what's in the curriculum. But I also advise all of my students that they have to read. They have to research themselves, and they have the computers now. So I basically advise them to go to the libraries and read, and also use your internet to research. There are a lot of information out there that you need to know. Some of the things that you may see in some of your books may not give you the complete story, may not give you the real story. But I also have to teach them what they have in those books so they will be able to pass those assessments, because some of the information that's on the assessment comes from the book. So, but I do give them other avenues to go find the real story.
Exactly. VP, what's on your heart? Talk to me, brother, because a lot of our kids has been fed false narratives. A lot of our kids has been fed false narrative forever, and it's basically by design. What do you think the purpose of it is?
Ignorance is bliss. You as long as you can continue to shoot a narrative towards people that only go so. It just dropped because you hit me with a different question. I was coming with something, then come back. When I was in, so I grew up in the South. As you probably hear my tang a little bit, but I'm up here in Connecticut, and I went to college at Syracuse University, which is kind of a liberal school compared to that down in the South. And I didn't realize how dumb I was of African American history until I got around Northern blacks. Like, I didn't know there was a black national anthem. I didn't know what Juneteenth was. I was 35 years old when I first heard about Juneteenth in college. Coming from the South, those things are brushed over, and we should take that into consideration too. Regionalized education in the South, we don't. Where I grew up between Huntsville, Alabama, and Douglasville, Georgia, we didn't learn a lot of different history when it came to African American studies or even European Eastern studies that contradicted anything that they had to put inside of their textbooks. If you didn't do your own reading, or if you didn't have parents that were educated beyond the basic knowledge of K through 12 level grades and maybe a social degree, man. That man said something. The guy who was saying the lies, he said something, and it blew my mind, because it's exactly what you were going with. I'm gonna give me a second. I'm gonna write a note, but you come back to me.
All right.
I'm gonna write something down.
Good deal. Pete, talk to me, brother.
Well,
he said you said something that blew his mind, Pete.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, give thanks. Just your brother and servant, just telling the truth.
Absolutely.
But when we look at the whole setup over here, see, we know that the narrative goes to the winner, the conqueror. Okay, so if we don't know that, you should. hopefully you're clear. If you win in the war, you dominate, you occupy, you're the force, you set the narrative. So we understand that. But the lies, how many towns, thriving towns, did these native people, territories, did they have when they came here? How many? And let's understand that when the European first came here, it wasn't just so chaotic at first. It wasn't so divisionary and hostile. But over a period of time, these things came in, and the massive setup for the lies and the untruth got started. And it continues consistently to this day. But the history of America, the true existence, the artifacts, the landmass, what was here, who was here, they actually have the real records. They have the records recorded.
Absolutely.
They have that. It's documented. We wouldn't believe that there were towns found, areas over here found with hieroglyphics and pyramids and carvings consistent with what we know to be called Egypt or Kemet. Right here.
Yeah.
What we call North America.
Yes, sir.
But the Smithsonian has all that information. I'm sure it's in the basement somewhere. They have light research. You can pull up the articles from the early 1920s when they found it. See, but why isn't that talk? Because somebody wants to control the narrative. They don't want to tell the truth. You have a society riddled with untruth. Here you are taught that these darker skinned people are criminals and thieves and whores and vagabonds.
Come on.
When in actuality, the heathenism is not necessarily the majority coming from me or mine. When we're talking about heathenism, when we're talking about ungodliness, how, I'm a God-fearing man. Bless you, my son, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It ain't nothing holy about you.
Come on.
Except you mean to come here and part these people out from their land, their holdings, their women, their children, their resources, and their lives. And then turn around and write down in a book that they were uncivilized. You're lying. You're lying. You're not telling the truth. So when you talk about the subject matter, his version, his story of history recorded into the knowledge and the experiences of what was, is riddled with untruth. The foundation of it is based off of untruth. His story lies.
Come on. 678-381-1973. 678-381-1973. The phone lines are open. Give us a call. Don't be scared. Let's talk this morning. We're gonna talk this morning. Dr. Cook, now you said that you've been an educator, and you have to certainly, my wife's an educator as well, have to teach according to the curriculum that they put forth. If you look at curriculum as an individual, not as a teacher, not as an educator, just as an individual, an educated individual, do you see some discrepancies in what they're teaching, what they're wanting to be taught?
Yes, I do. I see a lot. I see a lot of discrepancies. I really started really getting into history when I worked in the prison system, because I often wondered why we have so many African American men incarcerated. So I started looking at that. I started researching that. And of course, I had to teach history in the classroom. But I really and truly started learning about history from the male offenders, because they had a lot of time to read.
Yes.
And they would give me information, or give me the names of books to read, to research. I learned a lot of history from that, and working in the prison system. And there were other African American males that worked with me. I'm saying about 7, 8 years ago, I learned about Black Wall Street. And I'm saying now, I'm in my late age.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just learning about Black Wall Street. I should have known about this many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
My people didn't know about Black Wall Street. I basically mentioned to them, have you all ever heard of it? A lot of them hadn't.
Exactly.
So I always went to my grandmother and asked her question because she's up in age.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't know a lot of the information. And so of course she had a 3rd grade education, but she's very, very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
But not to history. And sometimes some people want to, not look at history because history was so bad, so terrible as to what happened to our people. So some people block it out. But I really learned a lot from working in the federal prison because a lot of them had to understand where they came from. And they had time to do this. And you have a lot of intelligent Black men incarcerated. You have a lot of talented Black men incarcerated. And I truly do believe if they knew their history beforehand, I really don't think that it would be the way it is now. Because I think they would be more appreciative of the real story.
Yeah, exactly.
And they will do what needs to be done. Because I was listening to something that discussed the breakdown of the Black family. And the German basis stated that it occurred in 1970. When that occurred, you had more and more men going into prison in the 1980s, 1990s. And when you look at history, you see what was going on. And people were being suppressed. It was just so much. And not even understanding that you had other people when these laws came out that were in the making with one another to suppress a certain race. That's when I became so fascinated with history. I wanted to know because I wanted to make sure my children understood everything.
Exactly. We got another caller. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, good morning. Just two sides.
You forgot where you from?
You messed me up, yeah. You made me forget where I'm from. You couldn't, bro.
You done forgot where you from. I ain't asked you no question. Only thing I asked your brother was, look, I came out the gate real simple. I say, what's your name? Where you calling from? And you remember your name, which is a plus. We're gonna give you a check mark right there.
You got me confused. Somewhere around Buck.
Look at here, man. We're gonna put a red mark on your paper for where you're from, man. You got a red mark on that paper, brother. You didn't get that one right.
You know how people don't know how to write. They just put an X.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
With my location, I mean, put an X marks the spot.
That's your signature right there. Absolutely. But Tucson, we're talking this morning about is his story a lie? What do you say to that?
I think that Pete, we're going to ask if everybody would post your Cash App on the site so that because we need offering for Pete this morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's start with the beginning. Let's start with his story. His story says that Columbus discovered America. You got to be lying if there was somebody already here.
Come on.
I pledge allegiance. Let's go through a few things. I pledge allegiance to the United States and and live with liberty and justice for all.
All of who?
we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
Mm.
I don't have to go no further.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at this country, somebody lying somewhere.
Somebody lying.
I don't know who told that story. I was gonna say something, but I cannot. I either need Leonard to say it, and it'd be more Rico. Rico said it. He said he niggas lie.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Rico, where you at this morning? Yes, sir. But see, and there's so many different layers. Again, I say to this thing, man, is his story, the story that he told us, is his story a lie? I say that it is. I say that is an absolute lie. But let's go back to VP. VP, you had something, you wrote something down, brother. What's on your heart?
All right. More everybody again. So now that I heard him again, as soon as I heard his voice, it popped back in my head. I was like, oh, that's what I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to be controversial as well. I don't know if y'all have ever seen this show called Ancient Aliens, which is kind of a conspiracy theory about how aliens got their touch on everything in the world type thing. But if you get beyond that, that top stuff and really look into the facts that they're putting out there, when he had brought up that the way that we have been taught, like the Egyptians didn't know math and the Mayans didn't have a certain language, and we were taught that these people were savages and didn't have their own mindset, then I look at his story in that sense that they're not lying. They're not lying about his story because it's their story to be told. The problem is, are we trying to find our story? Mm-hmm. So they're trying to say, in general, and which is a fact, the pyramids, the Great Pyramids of Giza, were put together so well that you could barely slip a piece of paper in between the cracks of the rock.
Mm-hmm.
That is mathematical precision to its finest over 3,000 years ago, and we're using TI-81 calculators to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So from the history of how intelligent the people were before modern education or the way the written history books are done, they only want us to focus on his story, which is correct. The Romans, the Vikings, the Roman Catholic English hierarchy, their dominance of Africa, India, Southwest or Southeast Asia, and then finally coming over here to North America and South America and really changing that culture. Do all that, they took, and what they're not telling is they took ideas from the people around them and used it. So they start to learn to understand the language of the people and dealt with the ones they didn't realize or that they didn't feel like were savages. Learn to navigate the stars, the same thing that our ancestors were doing to escape the people they were using to get across the world.
Mm-hmm.
But making it sound like they were the only ones doing it. And just like the gentleman said before, they wasn't discovering nothing, but for their story, they were.
Mm-hmm.
So it's their story that they're telling. It may not be such a lie. It's a lie to us because everything that dealt with it for them was a lie because you wasn't telling the entire story for us, but for them, it wasn't a lie. I think the propaganda of today's marketing and promotional standards have changed it so much that they fluffed it against what we see in through the magnifying glass. But for their story, and that's why I'm being controversial. If we're going to say it's his story, they're not telling a lie from their side of it. I guess it's just from us to combat it or see and actually go through a fine-tooth comb to say if it's true or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
or if it all fits.
And see, even with that, they're telling the narrative to fit their version of it. And you know, old man said to me many times before, there's three sides to every story. There's his story, there's his version, your version, and the truth. Now, Pete, we have to get to the point where we deal with the truth. Not my story, not their story, but the truth. And if we deal with the truth, I think it will elevate all of us. What do you say to that?
Absolutely. I catch my brother's premise, but they're lying. They're lying. You can't discover something that's already occupied and developed. So you're lying. You're not telling the truth. You can't change the substance of something that already exists to fit your narrative. That's changing it. That's altering. That's you know, you're molding something to how you want it to be when it exists in a state already. That's not telling the truth. That's lying. We speak what we call we speak English in America, right? Would everybody agree?
Yes.
We don't speak English in America. We speak American. They speak English in England. We speak American. And American is nothing but a trade language equivalent to Swazi or Swahili. It is the exact same. It's just our version over on this side. It's a trade language. That's all it is. It's a language that was developed for people to do commerce with each other and able to communicate with one another. It is not an ethnic language of a people. It is a trade commerce language. You're lying. You from over here, there. Learn American. Why? For what? It's just a trade language. If I don't want to do business with you and I can exist in your society, your landmass, and speak my language, I don't have to learn your language.
Much like a lot of people do when they come here. They don't learn the language.
They don't have to. They can exist just fine in the realms of the confines of their community without having to partake in the greater society. There's no need to learn the language. It's a trade language anyway. It's not like you go into France where they speak French, China where the Chinese speak, the China they speak Chinese. No, you're in America, so it's just a big flea market for the world. Come on.
Wow,
they're lying. This society is built up off a foundation of shaky shadiness, ungodliness. The foundation of it. The things that are done lawfully and legally by those on a certain side in this society are considered just fine. And if you're below that line and you do it, it's considered a crime. Now, right is simply right and wrong is simply wrong. It's not a class that has to be taught. It's not a moral concept that has to be digested or conceived. It's just obvious. That's how simple right and wrong are.
Wow.
Lying.
Dr. Cook, talk to me.
They're lying. Exactly. The society is riddled with lies.
Dr. Cook, talk to me, sis. What's on your heart?
Has anyone actually seen the curriculum for the 1619 project?
No.
Because the reason why I asked, I want to know why. What is in the 1619 curriculum that makes it so controversial? I'm saying, if this individual did her research like I know she did, why wouldn't they want this to be placed out there? And there are some African Americans that are speaking against it as well. So I just want to know if anyone knows anything about the 1619 project.
Pete, you know anything about that?
I can barely hear my dear sister, so I can't even understand what she said. What did she say?
She was asking about the 16.
I apologize, but she sounds very low to me.
Okay. The 1619 project. She want to know, does anybody know anything about the 1619 project?
The 1619 project leading up to the critical race theory concept?
Is that what?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Will you elaborate on it a little bit, because I don't know what was actually in it and what made
A young
everyone
sister
so.
did some research. And basically, she documented over a period of times, going back to pretty much the origin of the formation of this society. So it's not just America, but it involves the colonies and different interactions around that time, and how from there all the way up to present day, systematically there were double standards along the lines of race, and how it just bled out, how it got a good foundation. It was strengthened, it was maintained, it was increased, it was energized, it was supported, it was furthered, and just the whole breakdown on a full scale of the effects of that. So that kind of evolved into the critical race theory you're hearing a little bit about in the out now. And basically, critical race theory is saying that society systemically is rooted in a double standard that involves isms, specifically racism.
Mm-hmm.
But it's other isms, but they focusing mainly on the division of the people by their pigmentation and the treatment of them, their ability to live, their ability to move, their ability to own, the benefits from their labor. And these are laws that were written into the structure of this governmental body here, and the effects it had on those that it was against primarily, and those that it was for primarily. In America, with that formation of a systematic structure in application, it has damaged the majority of the citizenry, because even the ones that benefit have been affected by a untruth that they were better, that they're entitled to more. But simply, if your character, your morals, your principles, your mental capacity, your physical ability, your eyesight, your hearing, the mobility of your arms and legs and different things are not fully there, then you just are a little deficient or a little, challenged to the one that has it all fully.
Mm-hmm.
But they divide this up with race here, and it has great effects, and it has had great effects in this society, in the function of it, the ability to exist in it, and it's prevalent today. So it's a mounted challenge against it, because what the subject matter today, his story, doesn't lie. They don't want the truth of these infractions to come out. They don't want to face the truth. They don't want the truth to be told. A whole segment of our society does not want that to come out. They don't want you to really know all of these things, because then we have to address them. And addressing them will lead right off into having to make corrections and adjustments, apologies, and do some repair.
Mm-hmm.
In order for America to repair the melanated ones they call African American, Black, Negro, colored in this society, now we don't have to go to an extreme, but to give you clarity on the value, the depth of the value of what it would take to compensate and and I don't just mean monetarily, to give up the full repair for the damage and the harm, the injuries that have been suffered. Every non-deeply melanated person in this country would have to strip naked, take any gold, silver, platinum portion and fillings out of their mouth, go to the edge where the water meets land, and swim away from here with nothing,
Mm-hmm.
in order to pay for the damage that has been done by this society. So it's a great cost. But the Bible says you can do nothing against the truth, only for it. I'm going to use that as a reference point, because the truth is so strong, it's going to reign supreme in all things. It defeats all things. It never loses. You're going to have to deal with the untruth, the injustice, and the lies. There's no running from it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to deal with it.
Exactly.
You have to deal with it.
Absolutely.
So that is a knockdown to prevent the reality of us coming to a table of reasoning and negotiation and truth, and having to address those very issues.
Mm-hmm. 678-381-1973, 678-381-1973. The phone lines are open. Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. We're having a discussion today talking about, is his story a lie? Is his story a lie? What do you say to that? Give us a call again, 678-381-1973. Phone lines are open. Phone lines are absolutely open. Toussaint, what's on your heart, sir?
I have agreed within myself to stay in the amen corner and let people talk.
So you yielding your time, sir?
Yeah, man, because you own it. Because when somebody has mentioned something, I check it out. I look at it and see. At least I know the surface of it. But there's so much. I don't know, man. When you start with a lie, you got to continue to lie, and you try to make it. Sooner or later, a liar believes his lie.
Come on,
because he's so used to it. He piles on lies to make the lie his truth, his story. He believes what he is saying, and then he convinces others to join in on it.
Yes,
with it. So this is what America. When you write a book, they say don't use isn't or aren't or won't, because other folks don't understand what you're saying. Right?
Yes.
That's right. Right or wrong?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
We don't have a language. We speak what? Like you were saying. Do we speak English? No. We just running off at the mouth. Something that was taught to us. Notice, just take the fences now. The math that we've learned. What have they done with the math? Changed it. To the point where you can't even teach your child. Can you?
No.
Have you ever sat down with one of these young people and try to teach them their math?
It becomes very difficult.
Because you don't know what you're doing. You got to keep changing the lie to make it a truth. When it becomes sooner or later nonsense. So I'm gonna stay in the amen corner, man.
There you go. I got you. VP, what's on your heart? Talk to me, sir.
I'm in this conversation with some scholastic people here today.
Yes, sir.
I'm more of the emotional speaker. So I'm listening to this and I'm trying to think, how do I display what his story looks like in a vivid manner? Because I don't have all the super facts. And I was thinking of something recent. I've stopped watching sports here lately. Like literally last 2.5, 3 years, I've stopped watching sports because of his story when it came to the gun violence and murders of African American and women during those last couple of years of Trump's administration. And I was thinking, how did they flip his story around? And remember, it started off with them saying with Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem because of police brutality. And this is how, if anybody's trying to look at how his story is a lie, this is how it's been put into my spirit. So it started off with Colin Kaepernick kneeling because of the police brutality. Media took it, or America, however, his story took it and said we were disrespecting the troops and the national flag. So when he was kneeling, he was disrespecting the troops, which had nothing to do with what he was doing it for. So this is how they flip it on you. So remember how everybody's mad because now everybody's upset because we're disrespecting the flag. We're disrespecting the flag.
Yes.
And this is where I'm gonna catch his name when you say it next time because he's a guru. This is how they flipped you on it. So you remember when now it became a police problem, and they flipped it And if we were so disrespectful to the flag, why would they change it to black and white with a blue stripe?
Mm-hmm.
If the symbol of America was so important to you, why would you disrespect your flag and only make it about one type of person who ain't even a accountable human being? That's a job occupancy.
Mm-hmm.
You choose to do that. But because their story has to be engraved into our brain so much that you can't change the narrative or make it look like it's worse than what it is without them making it or using it as an enemy attack towards our education. Or like we're supposed to say dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to sit here and figure out how do I become like I'm learning about our story as I'm growing up now. Just like recently, last 5-6 years, more and more about our story. But listen to you here. That is what his story is. The truth. You know, their side, your side, and the truth.
Yes.
And
yes.
the truth is you're living what his story looks like now. And it may seem subtle, but that's what they've been doing for a long time, is subtly making it seem like we're dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Subtly making it seem like they're not lying to us, or making it the narrative play towards them always being on top.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
But I'm grateful that we have people, the kids today are not as passive, and there's nothing wrong with passive aggressiveness, but they're not as passive in learning and pushing a better or more connected narrative than I had in my time, or you had, or the elders before you that had the resources to do that, or would live without the fear that if they did try to learn something else, that they would be snuffed out, and not just because the people thought that their superior knowledge was going to be surpassed,
mm-hmm.
and
mm-hmm.
that what they taught couldn't be relevant anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that is to me a good example of what his story is.
Mm-hmm.
Not they're saying they care, like they say they discovered a country. To them, they did discover a country because that's what they felt like they did. They felt, even though he called it India, he thought he was going to India. That's how dumb they are, and that's how dumb we keep celebrating, or the nation keeps celebrating this dumb Columbus Day. The man thought he was going to India.
Mm-hmm.
He literally thought he was going to a different country connected to Asia, and ended up in America, or this country, because they named it America years later, only to go back and tell them that he found it in India,
mm-hmm.
and named the people Indian.
Mm-hmm.
But we're celebrating ignorance because nobody wants to push further and figure out that he was lost, and he got lucky.
And see this, I'm gonna play this clip, and I don't know. Hopefully, there's no profanities in this particular clip. I hope it's not. But if it is, y'all, please stick your fingers in your ear just for that part. But this is what it sounds like to me. Y'all listen to this.
Yeah, Mr. Officer, what happened?
We got a phone call that you're trying to steal this vehicle.
No, that bullshit. They lied to you. I discovered this car. I'm discovering this car.
This gentleman right here is telling me.
Yeah, I went inside to get some water. I left my car out here in front of my driveway, and he
You bullshit. You lied. This is not your car no more. I discovered it. You lied.
Sir, you can't discover a car.
What you mean? It's here. It's open. I get inside. I discover the car. It's my car now. What day is today?
Today is Columbus Day.
Okay, and what he do?
He discovered America.
Bullshit, because somebody was already here. How you going to discover something because alguien estaba allá? And what the first country he discovered?
He discovered Dominican Republic and Haiti first.
No, bullshit, because Pefita told me she was there already, colando café when he got there. So why you lie?
Sir, I need you to get out of the car.
I cannot get. I discovered it.
No, but
listen, I'm busy. I have somewhere to go. I discovered this car. I have to leave.
Sir, this is not your vehicle.
It's mine now because I discovered, Mr. Officer, and I'm trying to explain to you.
Sir, I need you to get
Tell him I'm leaving.
Sir,
okay,
this is this gentleman's car.
Sir. Yeah.
Pete, what did you hear there? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tucson. That's what brings me to the mind. That's what I think when I heard something like that's what I think about, man. That's exactly what I think. But this man said, I discovered. No. The man said, I got out of my car, went to the store to get some water, and he's sitting in my car. No, I discovered this car. What day is this? Columbus Day. What did he do? And so there's so many different layers, man. Donald, what's on your heart, brother? We got another caller. Caller, we coming to you in just 1 second.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, man. I was just wanted to say everybody's sides of it. That's all I'm saying. So look, wait, can I before I go, pass the tongue? That's what everybody's doing about America. We keep continuing, especially in the last, let's see, I would say more than, let's see, you got 8, 16, 20, what's that plus that? And so, about 17 years, they've been laughing at us with our elections and all of that kind of stuff, trying to prove a lie to be the truth. Okay, that's about it.
Exactly.
I discovered it.
He discovered the car. You no, man, you lied. No, officer, he lied. No, this is what happened. Pete, what did you hear?
I heard somebody that understood the foundational principles of this society and was executing on the same mindset.
Yes, sir.
That they operate on. He flipped it right back on. Hey, I discovered it. It's mine.
It belongs
it's here
to me.
For the taking.
Yep, it belongs to me.
Even though it may have been somebody else's at some point, they're not here, and it is, and it's open for me to take possession of. So now it's mine. Oh my goodness! Welcome to America.
Welcome to America. Absolutely, absolutely. We got another call. We got another
land
call.
Home of the slave and the land of the thief.
Come on, watch out. We got another caller. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Rico Jackson calling from Anderson, Alabama, man. Grand rising to everybody.
Good morning, sir. How you doing this morning?
Man, I can't complain, man. I'm out here getting this melanin treated, man, and getting this vitamin D.
There you go. There you go. We're talking about this morning, is his story a lie? Is his story a lie? I know you've been listening in this morning, brother. What's on your heart?
It's a complete fallacy. And once you start finding out why, you start realizing that it's a bunch of lies being told, you have to ask yourself why. We always got to ask ourselves why something is going on, especially when it's so dysfunctional. And so, lie examples not only were Juneteenth, but just a couple of days ago, I just found out that Paul Robeson was poisoned by the CIA with a drug called BZ, a very, very synthetically created drug, created by the United States government, way stronger than LSD.
Wow!
So strong that when it run you crazy, you might not never come back. You might not never straighten up. And so this is something that I just found out a few days ago. All these years I've been hearing about how great Paul Robeson was from the system and the people and the government that wanted him to be crazy. They wanted to shut him up. The same people that wanted to kill Martin Luther King.
Yes.
So, over time I started hearing about stories of 4 little girls. I started hearing about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but then I started hearing about other people, Medgar Evers, Emmett Till. I'm like, well, wait a minute. They did a lot worse than this. Why is it that we're not hearing about this, but we could hear about Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and all these people over and over and over again. Sometimes you go to school and you get educated on the same stuff. It gets repeated every few years so it can stick.
Yep.
But then you got all this other information that you don't know nothing about. And it's to cover up their tracks. It's to make you be dumb and to make you grateful to somebody you shouldn't be grateful to. See, we might not want to admit it, but at one point in time, I ain't gonna even say one point in time, in this day and time, a lot of us are Jesse Lee Petersons and we don't even want to admit it. We don't even realize it. How many people shot fireworks for the Juneteenth, and then how many people took vacations and shot fireworks for 4th of July? See, ain't nothing worse than celebrating a system or I'm gonna say a goal, an agenda that didn't benefit you, but you celebrated. Ain't nothing worse than being grateful to people that really and truly want to oppress you. So they can achieve that when they educate you with their history, make you grateful that you came to America. You hear people like Jesse Lee Peterson, the comedians, get up and say, I'm glad they brought me over here. I'd rather be over here in China than be in Africa. They're glad they brought them over here. You know, so when you hear somebody say something like that, you know they willing to overlook the past.
Yeah.
Because they looking at how good it is today. I wouldn't have it this good. America, the best place on the planet, best country on the planet. So, you know, you think about it and it's like, man, we really are bamboozled into embracing this nation, its system, not realizing we're embracing something that never did benefit us, and never was meant to benefit us. The only time it did was to make sure something else can go by smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's the reason we need to understand why it works like that. The best way for a system to control you or to oppress you is to leave you lacking your education or to confuse you about who you are.
Mm-hmm. I'm going and this is man. Look here, I'm YouTube is my friend this morning, man, because I'm every time y'all say something, it leads me to something that I've seen, and I'm going play this. This is Malcolm X. This is something that he said back in it don't actually have the date on here, but because it got 2018, so I know certainly he didn't say it in 2018. But here it is. Y'all listen to this, and we're gonna comment on this as well.
I've been silent for the past 90 days because of some statements I made concerning the President of the United States, which were distorted. They were distorted. And yes. What did you say, Malcolm? Well, I said the same thing that everybody says, that his assassination was the result of the climate of hate. Only I said the chickens came home to roost, and which means the same thing. You did not say that you were glad the president was killed. No, that's what the press said. What would I look like saying that I'm glad the president was killed? Malcolm, this was your first public statement in that 90-day period, is it not? First time I opened up my mouth in 90 days. That's why I'm talking so fast and so hearty. You feel, however, that we're making progress in this country and worldwide? No. I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. If you pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that the blow made. They won't even admit.
See, that's the part right there. You stick a knife in my back 9 inches and you poured it out 6 inches. There's no progress there. Dr. Cook, what's on your heart, sis?
I appreciate the gentleman explaining the 1619 project.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, all I heard with that particular broadcast is they tried to turn everything around that Brother Malcolm was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to put words in his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And every time he tried to speak, they tried to overtalk him. And so I listened to a lot of his speeches as well. And he explained himself quite well, but when you have other people jumping in, when you're trying to state something, you know, people get confused as to what was said.
Mm-hmm.
Because it stumbled over him when he was trying to talk, and the media does that a whole lot.
Yeah.
But another thing that I brought up that I want to bring up, my daughter was working on a project. This was in her 11th grade year. And this was about all of the riots that occurred in the United States. Now, I learned something when she did that. And the only riots I really knew of was the riot that occurred in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
The riot with the gentleman who was beaten by the cops in California. But there were so many other riots.
Yes.
Across the United States. And one thing we really learned, and this is all of them was dealing with the police, all of them were dealing with racism, and the police wanting power. But every riot centered around the very same thing. Every one of them. They basically wanted power over a certain race of people.
Mm-hmm.
All of the riots. And every city was destroyed. Parts of the city was destroyed. And they put all of that on African Americans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you actually go in and read it, it wasn't African Americans that were destroying the city. It was others. There's some were destroying it, but not when you actually look at things. They were not the ones that was really destroying the city. It was the other individuals.
Exactly.
Very, very, very fascinating when I actually really looked into it and looked into it deep. Because she was not the only one that was doing the project. I was too. And so she brought me in because I was trying to help her get her project done. And that was a week worth of work to do. And it was just fascinating. And if everyone would go back and look at all the riots, if you don't know about them,
exactly,
it's centered around racism and their story.
Exactly. Rico, what do you know about those riots and the amount of riots that was had?
There were dozens, over dozens. I mean, rebellions. I call them rebellions. You know, a lot of them got squashed, you know, but they did happen. You know, you talk about Nat Turner's rebellion. You know, we hear about it and we read about it, but then we forget to mention it. Then there was a movie made about it, and we decided to go see Boo by Mud Deal.
Yeah.
Instead of going to make that a box office hit. See, we like our entertainment. You know, these conversations are good. And then finding out that this knowledge is out here is great. So we can repeat scenes from movies and tell you what kind of awards people won more accurately than we can some of the history that we have learned or that we should know. You know, so I mean, you know, those rebellions, man, they happen on a regular basis, you know, but they will be kept quiet. Why? Because they want you to believe that overcoming that structure, that system was just too hard. It was a waste of time to rebound. Wasn't no need of hoping and wasn't no need of trying. Wasn't no need of thinking about coming back and overthrowing us again, because they won't succeed. And to a certain extent, they were telling the truth. Because they came in with those jets and Tulsa, military plane. They said, you know what, man, this is America, but we don't mind bombing them because we didn't intend on them being American no way. They doing a little too much. They're bombing and massacring. You know, and so they dictate how many people they said were killed. You know, you look at both rebellions or riots in Tulsa and Wilmington, they say the number of dead are underestimated. So it's more dead than they want to tell you. It could go up to the thousands. And that's just by word of mouth from people, even white people that heard it from their ancestors. So, I mean, you know, I go back to saying that about confusion. See, if they keep us confused like they did with Malcolm X's words, then they can always make themselves look like the good guy. And, you know, it really sucks because to a certain extent, there are only a few people that truly know real history.
Come on.
And I think about 100 years from now, 100 years from now, people going to look back at 9/11 as the story that they dictated and narrated. They ain't gonna look at all the ins and outs and the stuff that wasn't investigated and how they just threw the investigation away. They're gonna look at January 6th, something patriotic. And another 100 years if these people don't go to prison, because that's the way they want to dictate the narrative. It's about long-term control. This ain't just no short-term thing. If we think about the short term, that's the reason why we can't really retain the knowledge that we do learn. But they think about the long term. And the long-term effect is for you to control these people for this long of a time, you have to manipulate their education and confuse them on what the reality is so they could keep on conforming and celebrating and feeling great. Yeah, think about this. Haiti lost its president. The media hasn't gone all crazy about a world leader being assassinated, and they don't find it as important. But the second thing I noticed is there were 2 Haitian Americans, American trained or whatever you want to call them, from Miami, involved. But guess what Haiti is doing? They're calling on the United States to come in and help investigate. And you still got to call on the same people. So that means to tell you that somewhere in the back of our mind and and our subconscious Jesse Lee Petersons, we feel like America is the land of the great, and they all about justice, and they could come in and solve all this dysfunction and debauchery with their brand of justice. Not realizing or not understanding or just even acknowledging the true history of these people that we come from, man. This whole existence that we're in is narrated by a savage, barbaric people that don't mind leaving, that don't mind collateral damage.
Wow.
That don't mind showing you that you're expendable or that you are invaluable to them once they're done with you. I mean, you know, we have to wake up.
I'm going to read what Public Citizen wrote here. He wrote, is anti-racist education going to work in this society? The right-wingers cannot help but talk nonstop about how anti-racism is anti-white. Wow. Got another caller. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Morning, Ryan. Morning, Go family. How y'all doing, man? It's Kurt, Tom City.
Kurt, good morning to you. How you doing this morning?
I'm going, brother.
There you go. There you go. We're asking a question, Kurt. We're asking the question: is his story a lie?
Well, the question is history unlocked?
Is his story a lie?
History don't lie.
I put a hyphen. It's spelled HIS-story. Is his story a lie?
Oh, his story is a lie. But history never lies. That's the one thing you can count on. History is going to always tell you the truth. You can put out the lie, but the one thing about history is, because it's so deeply rooted in the truth, there's always going to be somebody in the room that can attest to that history.
But now, what are we talking about? HIS-story.
Oh no, his story has always been a lie. Has always been a lie from his from his creation. It's always been a lie. You know what I mean? Where's our brother Abel? I don't know. Am I his brother's keeper? It's always been a lie. You know, he knew exactly where Abel was. You kill him.
Yeah.
His story has always been rooted in lies because it's always been connected to his ability to control and conquer a given society and or culture, to pillage the riches of that culture. So, I mean, maybe that's the reason why he's so adamant to prevent history from even coming to the fold
or telling itself.
See,
or telling itself.
Yeah. Exactly. Because see, the one thing that will transmogrify a culture and or society is truth. You can't run from it. You can hide, but eventually the truth gonna run right up on you and catch it. Like you can't run from the truth. So man.
Yeah, good deal.
That's a powerful question.
Exactly. Pete, what's on your heart, brother? Mute your line, Curtis.
Examining the title, his story, and does it lie? But tell us where the story, from their perspective, is telling the truth. Where is it telling the truth?
I can't find it, brother.
Because they commit an offense and they cover it. They do a wrong, they cover it. It's riddled. It's riddled with untruths.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. Like I say, we do have a system here where you can find some relief if you have the endurance. You've heard the term, the wheels of justice turn slow. Well, when you seeking justice, yeah, the wheels turn slow. But when the system is seeking you, it steamrolls you over.
Mm-hmm.
And these type of improprieties are what exacerbate the double standard of our society and bring out the lies. We can't say we're a nation of laws and the laws don't apply to everybody equally. We can't say liberty and justice for all and that doesn't apply to everybody. We can't say that you have liberty and the ability to pursue happiness, but yet your system and function is taking away my ability to pursue happiness because I'm in despair all the time. I'm in anguish all the time. Now, we're not taking away the individual and collective responsibility, but the system itself and how it functions.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask his story, does it lie? Yes, how can you be a owner of people and then sign a document saying we're all equal in the eyes of God?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Come on.
What is that? How can you say that you have the right to own land, but these people don't?
Mm-hmm.
We have the right to hunt over here in this field that's full of animals. You used to have it up until today because we posted a sign and passed a law amongst ourselves that no one can hunt over here but those that look like us.
Come
You
on.
had no partaking in passing the law. You just showed up to the normal area where we known to go get the buffalo. And here you see the herd being stacked up and slaughtered, and you being held at a sign that was stuck in the ground last night with some hooligans with guns that said you can no longer hunt over here. We passed a law last night. It's the law. This is their version of history. This is the true history of this nation. Up under the European, the Caucasian, the colonizer, the dominator, the occupier, the persecutor, whatever you want to call it. So his whole story is a double standard built on lies. Again, built on untruths. Now, like I say, there is some forms of relief if you have the intelligence and the endurance to benefit from. You're in a situation you can overcome. But this is a systematic structure and function of double standard, of illegalities, and hypocrisy and untruth.
Wow.
There's no way these people are charged with storming the Capitol, insurrection, terrorist action, patriot action, whatever you want to call it, and they're getting on average 6 months and a $500 fine. That's what they're getting on average. Sounds like maybe they want to encourage us to go back up there and make that a national holiday. Let's trash the Capitol. Every January 6th, all the American people put on your stormtrooper boots and bulletproof vests, knee pads, and elbow pads. Bring a baseball bat, and we're going to attack the Capitol. This is the holiday celebration where we destroy the building every year. Are you kidding me?
Wow. 678-381-1973. 678-381-1973. Give us a call. We'd love to have your input. We're talking today is history a lie? Is history a lie? CV, what's on your heart?
I don't know why I knew you coming to me, but I think I'm thank God for old boy with that alley oop he just threw out. Because I was going in that same direction, no lie. So I'm trying to do some research, and coming from the educational stance, repetition is a very good way for his story to be embedded in our head. And I came across the two definitions that really stood out to me. It says repeating a word, a concept, or skill allows your child to form an understanding and even attempt to intimidate it or imitate it. Repetition is a key learning aid because it helps transition a skill from the conscious to the subconscious. So meaning they want it repeated so much that you don't even doubt that it's real anymore, which everybody's been saying. So for the example I was going to come up, I don't know how many people have heard of the 1985 move bomb in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a lot of reading. I mean, I've heard about it before, but I wanted to show the example of how his story always changed the narrative to make it seem like they're never the enemy. So just like they treated the Black Panther Party, MLK, Nation of Islam, there was this group of purists or nationalists in the Philadelphia area that had separate ideas, and they had gotten into a shootout because there's always somebody who's the aggressor, and that's what usually messes up the movement. There's an aggressor in Philadelphia that they got to shut out with these cops. So in the 70s, and then the 80s, they were in a hideout in New York City, and the New York City police flew up in a helicopter and dropped a bomb on this neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were the United States military chasing down terrorists. Dropped the bomb and hid it from the American public. Like this is his story that he's not trying to tell. Mm-hmm. So if you fast forward, because if you tell that story, then you don't get away with what you could do in 2020 and have somebody storm the Capitol, but you look at Black Lives Matter and their protests and call them a terrorist organization, but ignore the terrorists that are really going into the nation's capital, or ignoring the terrorists who are actually going from city to city during these protests and starting up riots to make another organization look terrible. Well, I don't know who the other people, the Keenron. Before you called me, I'm trying to look up when they put up the anti-hate laws, the ones that's for those type of, the neo-Nazis and stuff that they don't ever want to push. So they make these laws to make us feel like we're being thought of, or they actually think about the safety of the minority community, but they never enforce them until it has to be enforced on the minority community.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So they came out, trying to, I'm curious for when my son gets to this deeper education age, what narrative are they gonna say?
Mm-hmm.
Because now at that point, someone like me, I get to tell the story the right way. So your story doesn't get to stick the way you thought it should stick. Like they shouldn't. I'm for some reason I just feel like they're gonna write up Trump's history as a savior of America. And it won't be in the sense of how he dealt with the personal, but how he came in, changed the tax laws, changed the financial industry and the stock market and trading and all that, all became a boom for America between 2016 and 2020. And not the hate and the division that he brought that was already in the country and was established there, but really was brought back up for everybody to see besides the South, who already knew it was always there.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I'm curious how history will get told.
Exactly. Let's go to
right here. Can I cut in right fast? He's talking about, he was mentioning the Move organization,
mm-hmm.
and the Africa family.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe that was Philadelphia. Now, some of those folks are still in jail. They let Ramona Africa out, but isn't it something? They dropped a bomb. Black leadership now, black police chief at the time, and burned down just about an entire city block. Okay, look at this here. They just apologized for Tulsa. 3, 4, 5, 6 people alive from that time. and give you an apology 100 years later. But they refuse to give them compensation for the damage that was done. So I guess we'll receive an apology for the MOVE organization 100 years from now. But yet we have the Black Panthers, the remnants of the Black Panthers. Dr. Mutulu Shakur still in prison. Many others still in prison. Mumia Abu Jamal still in prison. Asada Shakur still in exile with a $2 million bounty on her head. And look at from the 60s and the 70s to today, the chaos and the mayhem that has been verified and substantiated, fully merited in law. And you mean to tell me you still will hold those people in jail? Their narrative has been proven since they've been incarcerated and victimized of under injustice and lies and hypocrisy. There's no way that they should be in jail. That's the lion of America right there. That's the lion of it right there. You're lying. You know you're doing it. You know it's unjust. You know the police are only put there to protect property. Okay? And they were created in the South to recapture runaway slaves, and they were utilized in the North to protect property and products. They do not protect and serve you. And they were never created to protect and serve you. And the rules and the laws and the regulations will verify that to you. They protect and they enforce corporate policy. Come on now. Lying. That's what I mean when I say it's riddled with the lies. Riddled. The society is riddled with lies. You live in a nation that says it's a Christian nation. Well, you better clarify the Christ that they talking about and what they believe in, because this system's belief in God is not what many of us think it is. Your morality, your principles, your character are much higher than the majority of these hooligans. These savages.
Come on.
The Vikings, they were savages. The Romans, they were homosexual, bisexual heathens. The Greeks, clowns. The people that's occupying the Middle East, liars. Come on, man. What are we talking about? This whole system is riddled with lies. When the Robin Hood folk pulled a fast one in the investment arena, look how quick it switched up to maintain this system. Wait a minute, we can't get in on the game and play the same game that y'all play all the time? Oh, when the regular folks play it, whoa, you can't do that. Lying. Hypocrisy. Lying. The society is riddled with lies and hypocrisy. This is the cry that we see in our society today. The double standard and the activeness of injustice, of lies, of hypocrisy. Until this nation comes to itself and realizes that it has to reestablish itself in truth, in real justice, in equality, we will continue to have lies and high hypocrisy.
Exactly. Dr. Cook, talk to me, sis. What's on your heart? Dr. Cook, are you there? I think she may have some difficulties with her mute button right there. But in the meantime, let's go to Toussaint. Toussaint, what's on your heart, brother? Talk to me.
I'm trying to fit myself into this conversation. And because you're causing me to do some studying on something, because I keep hearing what the question, what is truth? Because there's this young African American, let me call him that, African, a young black man that comes on the scene, and he's speaking truth, he's living in truth, he's walking in truth, and they bring him before the judgment hall and ask him that question. What's truth? Because they will not accept the fact that he says he's king. So I'm doing that. So I'm here. I want to, but there's some See, because you ever saw the greatest story that ever told? Did you ever see that movie?
No. I haven't seen
Yes,
it.
you have.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody has that know what I'm talking about. It's the story of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Greatest story ever told. But you know what the problem is with that story?
What's that?
It's full of white folks.
Mm.
Check it out. Look it up. Check it out.
So we're not in there anywhere.
Probably the only. Go ahead. What's that now?
No, I say we're not in there anywhere.
Oh yeah, you when he falls to the ground, there's one of them from Niger that helps him carry the cross. That's the only one in there. I don't know if I've seen. I'm trying to scan through the movie, and I'm trying to see if there is any other in there, but he's the only one. A helper. Wind up being a helper. Not the bearer of the cross, the helper. So what I'm saying is, some people don't believe because they've been. You see, when we talk about Jesus or Christ or a Messiah, then the mentality of what's been taught to us automatically turns to a Caucasian. So we discredit the whole thing because it's a lie. Because it's based on a lie. They've made the narrative a lie. So us as a people don't see ourselves as kings and queens. We always the servant. So we don't want to be the servant. So we discredit the whole thing altogether. So we don't live in hope.
Wow.
We just live in deception. So we get further and further away from the truth and start living like them, seeking the American dream, which is only a nightmare.
Yes, sir. Wow. I'm
going to go back to my amen corner.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got another caller. Caller, what's your name?
Amen.
We got another caller. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Good morning, it's Sherelle.
Good morning, Sherelle. How you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Good deal. Sherelle, what we're talking about today is his story, HIS-Story, a lie? Is his story a lie? What do you say to that?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a lie. It's the people who made it a lie. And history is not a lie. It's history. You know what I'm saying? History is definitely not a lie. It's the people who told the story who switched it up that made it a lie.
Okay, that's
so
good.
What happened. We would never really know unless we were there. You know what I'm saying? We going off of the stories that was brought down from generation to generation. But is history a lie? Absolutely not. History is not a lie. It's the people who told the story that made it a lie.
That's good.
Who switched things up that made it a lie.
That's good. That's good. Kurt, what's on your heart, brother?
When you think about this country and its inception, it ties into what Sherelle just said when she said people who told the stories was telling a lie. Because by not telling the complete story, you're telling a lie. If you want me to be honest, if you don't tell a complete story, you're telling a lie. The conception of this country, in all reality, is based off of the Negro, period. The first person to die in the American Revolution was a Negro. That's fact. That's not fiction. That's fact. 7 names signed on the Declaration of Independence were Negroes. That's not fiction. That's fact.
Mm-hmm.
The design of Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, was by a Negro.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fiction. That's fact. The institution of government and its structures thereof was set up by a Negro. That's not fiction. That's fact. But we continuously, for whatever reason and whatever season, I think it has something to do with the fact that we have been able to amass such a wealth. We are the only people that are wealthy in all areas: knowledge, material, buying power. We are the only race on this planet that are wealthy in every single area. So why do I say that? When I heard Donald talking about the greatest story ever told, you're absolutely right. I think it's only one of us in the whole story, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we know that's fiction. Here's what the facts is. The facts is there's only 2 cities mentioned more in the Bible than any other city in the Bible. One city is called Cush, the other city is called Mariam. Cush is modern day Egypt. Mariam is modern day Ethiopia. No other cities are mentioned more in the Bible than Cush and Mariam. That's not fiction. That's fact. Simon, who bared the cross for Jesus, was a Negro. That's not fiction. That's fact. Research it and then get back at me. And finally, one of the stories that we hear in every pastor's sermon at some point during the year is the story of the Good Samaritan. Something used to guide the people to do good things for other people. Correct? Is it safe for us to say that?
Yes.
The Good Samaritan was a Negro. That's not fiction. That's fact. They just changed the word. They changed it to Samaritan. The real word is Samarian, which is known in history as the original inventors of writing and arithmetic. They were from Samaria. Samaria is in Africa. That's not fiction. That is fact.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that this man has to tell so many lies or switch so many truths, it really don't surprise me. It really don't surprise me at all. But for me, I pay attention to not only what they've done, but what we've done. Because, see, I spent 9.5 months in Haiti during the General Cedras era. And he was a tyrant. He was a tyrant who really gravitated towards white barbarianism. He wanted to be a dictator. He wanted to be he wanted a total. I think it's called a totalitarian form of government. He wanted that. He wanted all that power. He craved that power and would do anything he could to get it. I stood in the burial grounds where He didn't even have enough common decency to bury the people underground, man. He just threw the bodies, had his people just throw the bodies on top of bodies on top of bodies. I stood in that burial ground. I stood there and saw all these bodies decompose, and man, it was a mess. But see, that's what happens when we buy into their narrative. Because their narrative, in all honesty, in all truthfulness, and this is not a spew of hate in no kind of way, shape, form, or fashion, but it's truth. Their narrative is tied up in nothing but a bunch of barbarianism, cannibalism, hate, jealousy, envy. I have yet to see.
Wrap it up for me, Kurt.
I have yet to see where ignorant folk can survive without being hateful, evil, mean, and disrespectful. I've yet to see it. If somebody has seen it, please turn me on. I'm open to learn.
Okay.
But I have yet to see it.
Good deal. I'm going to read this one, and this is something that our public citizen wrote as well. And Rico, I'm coming to you after I read this, so I want you to comment on it. He said, and the letters are real small. He said, definitely the achievement of brown and black people are not celebrated and are often covered up, but isn't part of the reason that some schools and teachers only focus on the most painful parts of our history. Rico, what do you say to that? Mute your line there, Curtis. Everybody mute your line for me.
Well, it's mandatory. It's mandatory. You know, that's the system that's been put in place. That's why people are against critical race theory. I'm glad that he put that up there because I was going back in that direction. I keep bringing up confusion and division and how that is utilized to keep us in a certain place. And I heard VP say that earlier about repetition. And you know what they said about if you don't know your history, you doom and repeat it, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
for some reason, our community seems to be stuck in a cycle because we are living under the illusion. We are living under illusion of freedom. We think we really are making it. I heard Curtis say something a second ago about how we have, I'm trying to think, how did he put that, about how we are successful in every part of society pretty much. But one thing we don't have are weapons of mass destruction, so we still can protect our next Tulsa whenever it comes around. And we ain't gonna be able to do nothing about it if they do decide to do another Tulsa, because we'll have to use that same court system. Ain't that something? We in the same shape we was in 100 years ago, but we think we doing better. We think we living our best lives. And then we still talking about his story being a lie. But see, what are we doing to rebuke or dispel, repeal that lie? We participating in the system. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you know, this is the thing that we realize. We got to realize we're still caught in this cycle. We're still caught in this cycle because some things we are dependent on that this system was built on the wrong way. So, I mean, you know, it's like, imagine the Jews having to still go back and depend on Hitler after he did everything he did. Or going to Hitler and saying, hey, we want y'all to say some of these Palestinians, they over here throwing rocks at us. We're going to call on you, Germany. Can you imagine that? How stupid is that? But look at us. And then so you ask, you know, I ask myself all the time, why is this system still succeeding? Why are we still talking about his story being a lie? And then I look at our younger generation, I'm like, well, because we ain't spending our quality time informing them. So they debating us. Once we learned about Juneteenth a few years ago, once we learned about Tulsa every now and then, we still got to understand that sometimes our people don't accept nothing as truth until it's coming from people that are in a higher place of standing. So when the white folk tell you that, when it's true. So you don't want the school and become out educated and scholarly, and what you know is the truth. You might think you're a little smarter than the people that go to the HBCU, but the people that go to the HBCUs know okay, man, I don't find out the real true history. So now not only do I know real history, but I can analyze why they think that way. And I can break them down for even accepting that history and believing it because it benefits them. But I mean, you know, we have to look at that, ask that question. Why are we still talking about history being a lie? It ain't like we doing anything too much different. I mean, look at what got them in power in the first place to control the narrative. What put them in power to even decide or dictate what kind of curriculum is in the school? If you're gonna listen to learn critical race theory or not? What put them in power? Well, weapons of mass destruction and IOU notes.
Yes, sir.
Printed on paper. So now, I mean, when we look at that, and then we think about what we value. I gotta go get the money. I gotta go get the money. I gotta go get the money. So we spend more time teaching our children how to go get money instead of appealing this messed up order that we in. So we out of line. We supposed to be in a certain line. We're not practicing our culture. We're not living the way our ancestors are. We're not even living in the way of man, the way man is supposed to be living.
Come on.
Because if you really living the way man is supposed to be living, there's supposed to be no poverty. There's supposed to be no third world countries. But see, we don't address that. We become individualistic, self-centered, and that is the American way. And as long as we keep on chasing the American dream, we're going against our best benefits because the American dream was not for us. And it's dysfunctional, it's selfish, self-centered individual is based on greed. I hate to say that because everybody doesn't operate in that fashion. But when you do try to be the one that does everything the right way, you'll get shut down. When you go against the system, when you go against the grain, and the other people that benefit from that system of capitalism and monopolies, they feel like they're gonna be threatened. They're sending them mercenaries out there after you. Better believe that. Even if you're the president of Iraq, even if you're the president of Libya, if you're going against their best interests and going to damage their little IOU notes, they're going to take you out of here in God's name.
Wow. Wow. Sherelle, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
What's on your heart, sis?
Oh, I'm just listening.
Okay. Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Pete, talk to me.
Yeah, see, we're getting down to where the rubber meets the road.
Yes, sir.
The double standards in the infractions based on lies. Where did it all start? It started with a lie. It started with saying we are a people that are entitled and everybody else are people that are not. This started from a lie. It started from a lie. And we're seeing the manifestation of this lie fully blossom to its full potential right now. That's what we're seeing right now. Marcus Lucide Garvey, exiled from the country for some tax evasion. That's why they exiled him from the country. Why did they get him 6 months in a $500 fine?
Hey, come on.
He said, up you mighty race, accomplish all you will. He instilled pride, brought the concept of the red, black, and green flag, the blood that has been shed may need to be shed. The black representing the ethnicity, the green representing the land, the hope of a people.
Come on.
And then his co-brother, Noble Drew Ali, giving a flag and a seal and a concept of nationality. They said, oh no, we got to do away with this. You can't have this. Wait a minute. Don't you all have a nationality? You said you're white people. You established that as a principle of your nationality, even though you're German, Sweden, Dutch, you're British, French, come on, Russian, Yugoslavian, Croatian, but the white people. Come on. What happened with Emmett Till? Somebody told a lie.
Say it.
It came out and acknowledged it. I lied.
And nothing
traumatized the whole country.
And nothing was done.
30 years later, 40 years later, by the way, I lied. The society is riddled with lying. Like I said, what is the governing authority in the United States? The Constitution, the legislative, executive, judicial branches, Supreme Court, State Superior Court, Supreme Court of the state, the appellate court, probate court, the judge, the clerk. What? No. Lying, stealing, and killing are the laws of this land.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is a regulatory process to keep the common folk in check. The real law is lie, steal, and kill.
Mm-hmm.
You just said, if you're over in another country, they don't like what you're doing, they just took the man out in Haiti. The 3 leaders across the world that were standing against the vaccine for their people, all 3 of them dead right now.
Mm-hmm.
Saddam Hussein checked out. Muammar Gaddafi gone. Let's go all the way back. King, Malcolm, Medgar, Kennedy. Come on, let's go back. Stephen Biko. Let's go back. Who killed them? The elements? No. Other men decided that it was time for their lives to be taken because their existence and narrative, their position was contrary to a desired position by a whole other set of folk. They took their lives. That's their law.
Mm-hmm.
That's their system of rule.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't want to disrespect the God of all creation, and his administration is ultimately is fully in control.
Good deal.
We
Good
need
deal.
to have clarity,
Mm-hmm.
not hypocrisy, not backsliding, or none of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you definitely need to understand, if you are a principled, moral individual, the society does not function like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me go to, I'm going to read another thing that's been posted, but right before I read that, I want to go to VP. What's on your heart, sir?
This is a wonderful conversation. My thing is, it really hitting me is this repetition, and I'm a visual person. So I'm trying to, let me explain this in a manner that his story is a fact on our lives, because as I took the family down there to the New Jersey State Fair in the Meadowlands Stadium, right there in the MetLife Stadium parking lot. And I'm driving up to it, and I'm thinking to myself, high school, middle school, this reminds me of history, because I'm seeing the stadium, massive stadium, this market around it, this carnival that we're going up to. And I'm thinking to myself, the only thing I can think about is Roman history or medieval time history, where they built up these cities, they've gone into nations, changed it from what it was, created this market area or stadium of entertainment, and we flock there. And throughout those times, there's always these conflicts, just like we have it right now. But no matter what, because we've learned his story, we don't want to deal with the issues. We'll flock to the entertainment. And I'm looking up at the signs, and I'm thinking to myself, at the same time that our people walk around, and I'm thinking our people because I'm talking about his story, not the one that's Africa's story that none of us really know, that they're looking at these athletes, and I'm looking at Black athletes that carrying the names of these companies, the Giants and the Jets, because we're in Jersey, and not getting the full amount that they deserve for creating this wealth.
Mm-hmm.
But we're repeating history. It's not like we didn't know it. We didn't see this coming. It's been taught to us.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the Bible. And we could use that story, that's his story of exile of Egypt and being brought over here to America, and make that parallel and know that we have hope to come out. And I don't remember his name. He said, we forget that we have hope.
Mm-hmm.
And between all that, there's always a war. And we're being educated that that's what's needed to progress, telling his story, because that's what his story has always said. Is that now we need a war, and now as you see our story starting to be pushed out, and we're being educated, and thank God that I got my African American studies at Syracuse, that I'm starting to see the differences and the parallels and how we fit into this wealth and then this growth of the nation. But also I can see how they're going to start to infiltrate a new country or a continent in Africa. The move's going to go because the country that we have now is now, by his story, overpopulated and it's on its way down.
Wow.
And the only thing that's out there that people still see as savagery and not being connected is the continent of Africa.
Let me
and they're gonna have to beat. Okay.
Go ahead, brother. Finish your thought.
And I'm saying they're gonna have to beat the educated blacks now in that understanding. And we're gonna have to start to come to a connection is gonna have to be made, or we're gonna keep repeating his story.
Exactly. Let me go here. I'm gonna read this right here. Then we're gonna pull some more people into the conversation. Now, this is a great conversation. I'm definitely enjoying it. Public Citizen said, "What part European in power was mostly luck in my opinion. The book Gun, Germs, and Steel explains how resources and geography gave whites the ability to conquer. White supremacy is a lie." He said white supremacy is a lie. Toussaint, what's on your heart, brother?
But if I can just get you to believe it long enough, even perception becomes the truth until you prove it wrong. If you ignore it, it just remains what it is. And especially if you're not interested in it or in finding out whether it's a lie or a truth or not, you just going along with the program, and you send your kids there and they learn the program, and you get in the system and you learn the system and you abide by the system, and you just keep kicking that can of lies over and over and over again. I decided that I was going to stay in the amen corner because you ever heard of a two-headed sermon?
Yes.
Well, Rico and Peter preaching their heart out, and I'm just saying amen.
Wow. Good deal. Let's keep this thing going. And Kurt, what's on your heart, brother? Rico, come to you next. Kurt, you there? Okay, we might have lost Kurt. Rico, talk to me, brother.
You know, VP said a second ago, we're repeating ourselves. History is repeating itself, and we just going right along with it. You know, I imagine over in Germany right now, when they teach history, they don't leave nothing out about what Hitler did. They don't. They held themselves accountable for all of those atrocities, regardless of how bad it was. They don't try to look at it as a patriotic time or a good time. They don't try to manipulate it and make it seem like it wasn't that bad. They let you know it was that bad. But then you get over here, and you got people. Number one, you got black people on opposite sides of the fence of critical race theory because they don't even understand truly what it means. So now there you go. We confused still. We sometimes some of us go against what we need because they've been manipulated or somewhat influenced by somebody else that told them a narrative. They didn't go dig into it themselves. But look at us. They ain't gonna put critical race theory in schools. Well, even though it's an opportunity out there to put it into our children, I ain't gonna do it myself. I ain't gonna do it at all because the school ain't gonna do it. So what are we doing? What are we doing ourselves to repeal that lie? You see what I'm saying? We got to counter this behavior. But if we don't, we just keep on embracing and being dependent on their education, knowing they're miseducating us. We see the cycle. We see the repetition, the program. of the education system. Know what it is, but we won't have enough time or won't take the time to counter that or improve upon that. And we have all the time in the world. Cause look, there's many people out here talking about critical race theory now, and especially black people that's on opposite sides of the fence because they really don't understand what it is. How many will keep this thing going another 10 years from now if not one school system introduces it as their curriculum? Will we just sit on our hands and continue to be dependent on the United States of America? Will we continue to be dependent on their education system, knowing that they only want us to know certain things? Now, these are the same people that know about Juneteenth. I didn't know about Juneteenth in high school. They didn't teach us. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. Now you know about it. And you know it's sad because I saw around here when they first started doing Juneteenth about 23 years ago, 25 years ago. The parents of those children, well, I'm going to say the people that were young back then, my age, they're the parents of today's generation. And I went talking to people, younger students a couple of years ago about Juneteenth. They didn't know what Juneteenth was. And then I asked them, did they know about our festival? What did their parents tell them? The only thing their parents told them is that everybody was out there. It used to be a lot of cars. We had a good time. They talked about the fun and the party they had. And when they tried to start it back up, it was all about entertainment again. These kids didn't know anything about not being emancipated. They didn't know that had anything to do with it. They just knew it was something for black people to get together. And then you look at what happened in Oakland. A guy got shot at a Juneteenth festival, which shouldn't have happened. But in the process of him being shot back in the ambulance and he died, you had our young generation out there twerking on the side of the ambulance and on top of it.
Yep.
Going by.
Yep, sure did. Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So now, here it is. We got our younger generation. This is a representation of us. What you put into your children, what you get out of them.
Yep.
But we still talking about lies. So now, if they don't let critical race theory into the schools, how many people gonna go home and teach it themselves every day?
Not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it. I can promise you that they are not going to do it. Let's keep this thing going. Let me see who haven't I touched in a minute. Let me see who have I not touched in a minute. Sherelle said she was just listening right now, so I'm gonna come back to her in just a tad bit. VP, what's on your heart, brother?
I'm in the listening mode right now. Rico killing it. I don't know what to say.
Got you. Kurt, talk to me. Kurt, you there? Okay, we might have lost Kurt. While we're doing that, let me go to my caller. We got a caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
816 Kansas City. K with an E.
K with an E. Good morning. How you doing this morning?
Best in you.
Yeah, you doing good. K, I want to ask you a question. Is history, HIS-Story, is his story a lie?
Is history a lie? That's a good question.
His story.
It depends on how you take it in and what part of it. Because some of it is a lie. You can't help but say, you can't help but to know history is a lie because they say Christmas is a little white lie. Christmas turned out to be a big white lie. So history definitely, it's a whole bunch of history that's a lie. Which part? Where do you start at? Because there's a whole bunch of lies out there. And they still trying to cover them up on top of that. The truth is right there in your face. And they still trying to cover it. Okay. It's a lie.
Now, Pete.
It's a big old lie.
Exactly. Now, Pete, how much of our history should we contribute HBCUs to teaching us what it is?
How much of our history
should we say that HBCUs has been responsible for spreading the truths about who we are? Has HBCU done an adamant job in?
I would say that the HBCUs have done a good job of educating and informing. of things that were missing in history. I think that's why we have a generation that are operating like they are, that have revived an awareness, a consciousness of these truths and these realities. But see, we tied together. We talked maybe last week or so about Bill Cosby and the show that he had in the breakout show, I think A Different World, and how that influenced a generation to go to college.
Yes.
The show mentioned different things throughout the programming, and the experience of those who are late 40s, 50s now, and actually went to the HBCUs, they acquired various degrees of knowledge, a lot of self-determination, a self-motivation, self-awareness, the reality of, in spite of their ability, and the encouragement and the determination to do. So that was definitely a blessing. But I think the HBCUs did a good job. But in spite of, see, we're talking about his story, the version that we get from their perspective. Is it the truth? No, it's not. It's riddled with lies. But having known that, once we identify a situation, if we identify a problem in that situation, then we are to articulate solutions. Once we articulate viable, obtainable, achievable solutions, then we immediately agree and go into the implementation phase. See, the sitting down, complaining, crying, procrastinating, begging, pleading, no, get up and do what you have to do. As a child, you did something, your parent whooped your behind. At some point, what they tell you, get up, shut up. Come on, because you got to keep it moving. You got to keep going. See, so we as a collective have to understand, keep your hand to the plow. Keep the plow turning the dirt. Keep the seeds planting in the dirt. Keep feeding the elements that you desire to grow. And nurture them and maintain them until they blossom to their full potential. Then reap your harvest and take the full nutritional benefit from your labor. In spite of the rain, in spite of the sun, in spite of the lack of rain, in spite of the weeds, in spite of the insects. Come on, in spite of the elements, the animals that's coming and eating up so much, the disease that took place and ate up half of this over here. In spite of, you stay on your mission.
Yeah.
It is good to articulate the problem. But then what are the solutions and how do we implement the solutions? I'm going to say this, I'm out the way. Malcolm said we fall out about motive. Listen, you say go left, I say go right. We end up going nowhere. Let us not fall out about motive. Let us come to one mind and determinations of self and utilize our intelligence and ability and do all that we can that is within our collective best interest. And this is not against everybody. Believe me, the people in this country who are of lighter skin would rather you call them by their name than to refer to them as white people. They tired of that nonsense too, because they're not white people.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna read again.
Raheem.
Yes.
Raheem, I'm back. This is Dr. Cook. I'm back.
Oh, okay.
And I have another person. I'm sorry I had a call, but I have another person on the line with me from Mount Vernon, New York.
Okay. What's the name?
Mr. Peter Sherrill.
Peter?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. How you doing this morning?
Very well, thank you.
Good deal. Good deal. Great having you with us this morning, brother. What we're talking about this morning is his story, HIS-Tory Lie. What do you say to that?
That's what I say. Cool. Man,
Yes, sir. Come on. This the morning glow, brother. We bringing 100. Come on, let's do it.
I think I will say this. We need to become more familiar with
of what's going on across the Atlantic that got us here in the first place. Because that's where the breach took place. And this, because we are totally oblivious, I won't say ignorant, but totally oblivious to what's happening in the motherland, they have been able to perpetuate whatever narrative they so desire.
Mm-hmm.
We've come a long way, but man, we still have a long way to go. And I believe we were having a conversation at one time a while back, you and Dr. Cook, about what was going on with plants in Africa, which we over here have no clue of what's going on. And until we begin to address the horrors that took place over there that brought us over here, that is the beginning of the truth being told.
Peter, let me ask you this question. What do you say to the individuals that's been here in America pretty much their whole life, and they of that mindset, as disturbing as it could be, they have the mindset is it doesn't matter to me what's going on in Africa. That's a whole different place. I've never been to Africa. I've been here in the United States of America, so I don't care what's going on over there. What do you say to that individual?
What I say, I used to be one of those individuals. Until I found out that I was 93.5% African. And I was like, wow. And so that changed my whole concept, because I was very displeased with what I would see when people from Africa would come over here and just disassociate with themselves with the African American. They wanted no association or affiliation with us. And their culturation was to assimilate to the dominant culture, which is the white American culture. And they would be like, I am not black. I am African. And I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. So we have this point of contention. And so, yes, I too used to be like that until I actually began to understand how, you know what, just like Black Lives Matter, Africa matters. And if we don't care about what happens in Africa, see, every other culture is plugged in to their country. Every other culture. Chinese, Italians, see how proud the Italians were when they won the soccer match the other day. Man, they was beating horns all over money earned Mount Vernon. From Italy, and they don't have nothing to do with it. They will never say they're not Italian and they're not from Italy. They always are plugged in to their culture. And so I would say to that individual, you know what? It's time for us to start letting this society that we are here called America, because we are having the same, like God said, man, this thing is repeating itself all over again. We are having the same fights that we were having 50 years ago.
Exactly. Hold your thought right there for a second. I'm gonna pull some more people into the conversation, brother. Don't go nowhere. Rico, what's on your heart, brother? What do you say to that?
Yeah, that's what I said a second ago, ain't it? We going through the same thing we did 100 years ago, beating the same dead horse, making the same complaints without actually making any kind of efforts, because we are so dependent on this system. See, this value system that we favor for us to survive in, and we got to play that game. But that was certain tactics. I was glad that brother went there, because I was going to bring it up earlier, but I said, man, that might be going too far back. But if it wasn't for eugenics, none of this would exist. And eugenics only survived, only was able to even be created because they found something called melanin that made people look different. So depending on the amount of melanin you had, that determined how they felt about you. So now we know this value system exists. We know how it all came about, how they came over and traded for slaves, and how capitalism made America the most powerful country on the planet by free labor via slaves, the abuse, the barbarism, you know, and then we still adapt this value system in this way of life. Dog eat dog world, every man for himself. Got to get the money. talking to the money, getting the bag. I mean, you know, we done disguised it and made it slang. We don't made it cool, but it's still that eugenic creating person's thought process, that whole system, because that's the only way it succeeds. So now here it is. We use these same tactics against us. Like me, I put it to you this way. If I had to deal with children to get them to do certain things, then I would have to get on their mindset, on their level to get to relate to them, to pretty much manipulate them into doing what I need them to do. If I need to talk to, deal with an animal, anything, I'm going to have to think like they think and act like they act to get them to conform to what I want them to do. So now here it is. We know what the oppressors did, the colonizers did. And so we should treat them the same way. No honesty, double standards, hypocrisy. No truth at all, just a whole bunch of trickery. And there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, we're doing it against each other. So therefore, we're repeating the cycle because we think that is our normal nature. The way that this American dream and this American way and this value system, we think this is the way it's supposed to be. It's not. But as long as we keep participating in it and then utilizing it against each other, it's going to keep being successful. Maybe we should start bordering.
Rico, have we been tricked?
Yeah, we've been tricked. Because, I mean, like I said, we trade with the same dollar. You get what I'm saying? We could actually trade another way in our community amongst each other and then use that dollar in their system to better benefit us, because we'll be saving more money. So when we do have to use that paper dollar, we'll have more of that paper dollar to manipulate their system. But see, we got to get out of being dependent on their system and get back to our own lane, our own order. And that means knowing that it's about melanin, knowing that it's not about Africa and Haiti, but it's about looking at that person and knowing, you know what, there's a certain demographic of people that's gonna hate each of us the same, regardless if they label the land we live on a boo-boo hole country, or regardless if they call it the greatest motherland on earth, Africa, or whether they call us African American. When they look at all of us, it don't matter. I gotta even open our mouth to say, you know, yeah, they Jamaican, they African, they American. All they know is we black, and they're gonna do what they want to do with us.
Exactly.
And so we need to understand that we need to stop separating ourselves, dividing ourselves. If we stop being so confused and actually understand what we should be knowing is valuable or important to us, then maybe we can stop being so divided.
Exactly. Absolutely. Man, we got it's so many different things we're covering today, man. I'm really loving this conversation. I definitely appreciate everybody for being here. Dr. Cook, what's on your heart?
My thing is, I say his story is all about economics. It's all about that mighty dollar. We're ignorant to that, to our own history if we don't learn our history. So, but his story has always been about economics. That's all I'm going to say right now.
Okay. And Public Citizen wrote this right here. I'm going to read what he said. And Pete, I'm gonna come to you after I really want you to comment on it. He got a link there.
Tell her not to leave privilege out of that, privilege and access.
Exactly. Absolutely. There, and he put a link at the bottom of, you know, for verification of it. So if y'all want to, y'all can go to the link as well. But he said white people have only existed for about 7,000 years. White people have only existed for about 7,000 years. Pete, what's on your heart?
Ooh, he getting off into genetics now. He's telling you the truth. The lighter skin, mostly non-melanated, were the last form of humanity to show up amongst the human family. That's factual. So he's telling you the gospel time truth right there. And which leads to a lot of why they act like they act too when you study that. Let me sidebar. The dear doctor had asked about studying the 70s separation of the family, I think, and I forgot that thought. I apologize. Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, my dear sister, start with her. And also research that subject matter when the government brought in the food stamp, the aid, the father, removing the father from the home. And that should start you on that articulation of that subject matter there. What he's talking about again is he's going into genetics. And that's a whole nother conversation that
Oh yes, it is. Yes,
the
it
world
is.
doesn't really want to have. They don't really want to talk about that. But that's true. It's the truth. They were the last form to come on the scene amongst the lead, the family of nations. They were the last one. So certainly, if that piques your interest, then I would pursue the links that the poster put up, and you can further that. But that's just factual. It's just factually true. So the genetics have been brought out. I'm sorry.
Hey, P, I was gonna say that's why they call America the New World. It was new to them, but sometimes people just don't read in between the lines. Sometimes they tell on themselves in their little false history. They'll tell on themselves when they start talking about Moors. Wait a minute, I ain't never heard that before. What's a Moor? New World. Wow. So you think about it, yeah, it was new to them.
That's right. That's right. The whole hijacking of identity is something that they had to do because they were last to show up. So they started stealing people's identity. We mostly have Chinese, blended folk over here, and European folk calling themselves the native folk. And the Cherokee did mingle deeply with the European when they came here. They did deeply mingle. That's true. But you had many other tribes as well. Now, if you go back and your great grandfather and great grandmother told you that they was one of these, and then their identification documents called them colored, we have already identified that they switched the identity. This is what they did. This is what happens. We know that 100 years from now, Michael Jackson is going to be white. You already know that.
Wow.
There's something to the fact that Lincoln is facing one way on a different color coin, and all the silver coins and everybody else is facing another way. That's not a mistake. It's done on purpose. It's right there. It's right there in your face. The whole Masonic Shriner, Mook Elk, the Crusader, all of this stuff, the Knights of Columbus and all that. That's stolen identity. That's what that is. Stolen legacy. The Hebrews.
Come on.
The Israelites. All this is stolen identity. That's what all of this is. It's stolen identity.
Wow.
Lying. That's what it is. But when you talk about, when my dear brother said, the Bible says, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Render unto God what is God's. Now, how do we interpret that? Because I'm like my brother. I interpret that as when in Rome, roll like the Romans with the Romans. Now, that don't mean if you participate in homosexuality, I'm a journey because I'm not. But what I'm saying is, I'm gonna roll with you, how you roll when I'm interacting with you. And I'm going to render unto God what is God. That don't mean I'm going to be ungodly over here and then all of a sudden come over here and act godly. No, but I know how to switch up along the lines that's acceptable and reasonable and deal with you. How do you make sense out of what doesn't make sense? Why are you wasting time trying to even figure that out?
Wow.
You just said it don't make sense. So why are you trying to make sense out of it? That's a waste of time.
Exactly.
You see the situation, you know the reality, you know what you're dealing with. This is why you often hear me say, here it comes. If you are not acclimated and determined and comfortable, resolved within yourself to exist in blood up to your knees, then freedom and justice and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, you're not entitled to it. You don't possess what's necessary to have it. You have to have a self-determination in truth and a commitment to what is right.
Wow.
You get admonished because somebody loves you and they want to teach you what's right, not because they hate you. Didn't God say in the Bible, I correct you because I love you? If I didn't correct you, He consider you a bastard, a fatherless child. Did He not say that?
Absolutely. Let me keep
so
this
it's
thing.
Not that I hate you. It's just that standing up for what's right involves that. We can sit down and have a conversation. I may have to slap you across your face to get your attention. Either way, I'm doing it because I'm standing on the principles of all that is right.
Good deal. Hold right there for a minute, Pete. I'm going to go to Peter. Peter, are you there?
I'm here.
Talk to me, brother. What's on your heart?
Oh, you coming back to me, or did you want another Peter?
No, coming back
Peter from Mount Vernon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Coming back to you.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, you know what? First, I guess I want to commend you for holding this forum.
Praise God. Yes, sir.
And for the people who are on here sharing profound and provocative information and knowledge. And that is the beginning of changing this whole narrative, where you have a forum where people can share and watch this spread. And you should just tell more people about what you're doing so they can also learn. It's like a continuum.
Yes, sir.
Because if you share knowledge and you have forums like this, because there aren't many forums like this, you know that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There's not many forums like this where you can actually get on and have this type of dialogue without getting shut down. Okay, that's first and foremost. So that's why I want to commend you.
Thank you, man. I
even
appreciate
coming up and doing something like this.
Appreciate you, brother. I definitely
And
appreciate you.
you need to tell more people about what's happening here on this forum and get more people to like become a part of it and start a movement talking about these type of issues. Because once you start enlightening, and I mean, like, here's some real serious information that's been shared on here. Just from the little bit of time I've been on here, Dr. Cook, just for the few minutes that I've been on here, there's been profound information shared. And I'm just shaking my head like, wow, you know what? We are not asleep. We are aware. And I'm not sure if being woke is good anymore, or if it's bad. I don't even know anymore. So they just took it and twisted it. I was like, you stay woke.
Yes,
now I'm like, man, stay woke. That means something entirely different now. So I don't even know what to say. If people should still stay woke. But having this forum is of the utmost importance, man. I commend you for this, and for the brothers and the sisters that are on here, man. You know, there's hope.
Yes, sir.
As long as we got hope, we can change this narrative. But this country is deeply entrenched in this false narrative. This country is deeply entrenched in this false narrative. And you want to know what? They ain't going to never give up this false narrative, because then that means that they would have to actually accept their place in history, which is barbaric and uncivilized and demonic. So that's what I'll say on that.
Wow. And brother, if you don't mind, if you want to reach out and let people know about us and let people know what we're doing here, we definitely would appreciate that, brother. Take. I
definitely will.
Absolutely. Now, who we got that hadn't touched on in a winning? We got what, 7 more minutes before we get out of here? We got 7 minutes. How about Sherelle? Sherelle, you still with us? We might have lost Sherelle. Sherelle, you still with us? Donald Toussaint, talk to me. Might have lost Donald there. Okay, let me see who we got left. CV, you still with us? CV, you there?
VP?
VP, what I say, CP? Lord Jesus, I'm gonna change your whole name, brother. I'm gonna change everything about your name. Pardon me, brother. What's on your heart?
I'm grateful that I've got up and answered their call today. I am a student today, man. I am blessed with the knowledge that I did not know and gained. And trust me, I am gonna share. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna make sure this radio show gets more airplay as well, man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
That's on my heart.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. Rico, what's on your heart, brother? Talk to me.
I picked up I'm gonna say a pattern behavior a long time ago. When they first told me that Columbus discovered America, I fell out with history then. I'm like, man, wait a minute, this ain't look. And I got kicked out of class for it, which meant that if I didn't conform to that lie that they want to believe, I was gonna be a failure. So I made up my mind then. See, I knew it way before then when I heard that about the Moors and stuff, and I was like, wait a minute, what is this Moor thing? And then I looked up the word Moor, and I saw that it meant black. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, black people way back then leading Columbus and showing them how to get him. I'm like, wait. So you know what? I'm gonna take this test and I'm gonna put this answer down. You devil, you chicken devil. I'm gonna put this answer down, but don't you dare think I'm gonna believe it.
Yeah.
Now I appreciate you. I appreciate your math you're teaching me. I appreciate the fact that you're teaching me how to pronounce words and use
I'm gonna say punctuation correctly, how to form correct sentences, how to break down one. I'm gonna appreciate your math. But this history thing, man, I think I need to learn something from somebody else, cause y'all right. And I ain't gonna say, as matter of fact, from now on, I think I'm gonna play y'all game the way y'all want to play it, but deep down inside, I'm gonna be hiding my hand and thinking a whole different way. So since then, I done been gentle and tired.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
could be just as proper as you want me to be when I need to be proper, and I could just be as gangster as you want me to be when I need to be gangster. And just and matter of fact, when I'm talking proper to you and shaking your hand, Mr. Mayor, in back of my mind, I got some gangster stuff on back of my mind. I'm just doing what you need to do because that's what y'all do with us.
Yeah,
that's the way the game been playing. But see, we so dependent. We so worried. We gonna fail. I'm gonna fail to the point that we don't understand. Well, look, you can just go ahead and play the game, but don't embrace it. But we'll leave and embrace it as the Bible, as the gospel. This is what I learned, and it got to be true. America the Great. I worship the flag. I respect the flag and this and that, and I'm a patriot, man. How can you be a patriot knowing this history?
Exactly.
Now, don't get me wrong. You might be smart because you knew all the answers, but it don't mean that you got to accept what these devils did. So, you know, once we start understanding that in our community, in our culture, we need to find out more how we supposed to be acting in our proper order. And then understand how to separate that when we get outside of our line, because until then, we're going to continue being dependent on that value system, which was not something that was meant to be valuable for us.
Exactly. Kay, was it you still with us? Kay gotta find that. Kay gotta find that. Kay, what's on your heart? So talk to me.
I'm just listening.
Okay.
And if we don't, they tell you if your history don't make you weak, it should make you strong.
That's good. Pete, what's on your heart, brother? We got 2 minutes before we get out of here, brother. What's on your heart?
I was trying to get you to pull up that Martin Luther King video where he said, I'm black and I'm proud. Well, so much has been said.
Yes, sir.
But in conclusion, as we prepare to leave, I'm going to reiterate that know yourself, study thyself, know yourself, study yourself again, study yourself a third time, and fourthly, perfect yourself and move out in the fullness of your being and your potential. Take courage, have pride, live in self-determination. Nothing and no one can subside your desires and your talents, your will for your life other than you.
Absolutely.
Empower yourself with the truth. Gain all knowledge. Seize ground. Secure it. Build on it and advance and yield nothing. If you are dealing with a legal situation, you fight till you can't fight anymore. You study until you are weary and you take a rest and get up and study some more. You do to them what they do to you.
Absolutely.
You stay on the attack. Don't play defense, play offense. Don't accept nothing that's wrong. Continue to stand for what's right. But when the right is challenged in truth with wrong, destroy it.
Yes.
In any and every form.
That's good. Dr. Cook, anything on your heart before we get out of here?
I just appreciate everything that was given to me today, everything that was said. Everything. This brother that just spoke, is his name Bishop Pete?
His name is Pete. Brother Pete.
Pete, thank you for your information that you brought earlier. I appreciate what everyone said, and I learned something today.
Good deal.
Thank you.
To God be the glory. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. I'm just your brother and servant. Yes, thanks.
Absolutely. Peter, before we get out of here, brother, anything on your heart?
I remember what Dr. Clark says. Dr. Cook says. Appreciate everything that everybody has said and shared, and let's continue to be diligent in sharing this information and keeping our people informed and abreast of what's going on in this world and this society, man, so we don't succumb to the falsehood.
Exactly. Exactly. And I challenge everybody, please share the broadcast. Share the broadcast on your social media and any platform that you have. Share the broadcast. If you don't mind doing so, do that for us. Now, let me see who I'm going to go to right now. K with an E. K with an E. Unmute your phone. I'm coming to you in just a second for you to pray us out. But in the meantime, Rico, what's going on at 3 o'clock today, sir?
If you missed today's show, or you just happen to be late today and early for tomorrow, and you would like to catch a replay in its entirety, you can tune in at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today at www.dkmmediagroup.com or on Facebook on DKM Media 1.1.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good deal. K with an E, can you pray us out?
Sure.
I know I gave you enough time to find that mute button.
You what? You always talking stuff. Father God, we come to you with bowed heads and humble hearts. We come to you with thanks. We thank you for this broadcast. We thank you for the participants. And we thank you for the listeners. Father God, we ask you to stay with each and every last one of us as we leave this broadcast, that we'll do what you have us to do, talk and how you have us to talk, walk how you have us to walk. That we'll go out and we'll be a blessing to others. And Father God, that you'll just keep our families, Father God. And we ask you to continue to bless our Hank and his family and all those families represented on and out for this call, Father God. And we have 10,000 tongues before we thank you enough. And we just thank you to go out into the world, Father God, and just touch all of the sick, the shut in, men and women, homeless and children, incarcerated. Father God, we just give it all to you in the sweet son, Jesus' name. Amen, amen, amen.
Amen. Amen. It's been a great broadcast. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And more than that, I want to thank you for allowing DKM Media Group and the Associates and the Morning Glow for being a part of your morning. It is now 10:02. You're about to exit the Morning Glow. But before you go, I want you to do me two favors, if you will. One, I want you to continue to pray for us because we're certainly praying for each and every one of you. Number two, why this is real simple. I want you to go out there, find somebody, and give them a hug because you never know. It could be the only hug that they get, or it could very well be their last. Love you, and ain't nothing you can do about it. Have a great day and a better tomorrow. Now we shine some of this light on you from the Morning Glow. Take it out there into this wicked and cruel world that we live in, and let your light so shine. If you get an opportunity, give somebody some love. You just might find some love in return. Won't that be a great thing? Love you. Have a great day, and take care of each other. Stay blessed.